All right, welcome to Feedback for the week of September 1st, 2010. I'm Matt Kyle, filling in for Adam Sessler, who is on sabbatical in the wilds of Tibet looking for Shambhala, by which I mean he's playing Uncharted 2 again.
Is that what he's doing?
Yes.
It's really
It's
good.
becoming a problem. And joining me is Abby Heppy, Rob Manuel, and Kevin Kelly, who we all know everyone.
We all know each other.
It's a group of regulars today, even if Adam's not with us. So let's get straight onto the news here. Looks like our first story. Xbox Live price increase has set some firestorm.
Well, they said it's going to $9.99 a month or $60 basically for the year. And
Gasp.
I know, right? The quote from Major Nelson was, since launching Xbox Live in 2002, we've continually added more content and entertainment experiences for our members while keeping the price the same. We're confident that when the new pricing takes effect, Xbox Live Gold membership will continue to offer the best value in the industry. And then the EDAR analyst, Jesse Divnich, said, when taking into account for inflation, $50 in 2002 is roughly $60 in 2010. And the additional services available to Go subscribers in 2010, such as ESPN, Facebook, Twitter, Netflix, Last.fm, and Video Connect, a $10 price increase still represents an incredible value to consumers. And gamers don't like it.
How dare
Because nobody
they?
likes a
Not at
price
all.
increase
How
on anything.
dare they?
Which, I would argue that can I have a lesser account where I don't have Last.fm, Facebook, Twitter, ESPN, and Video Connect?
That's
I'll take
actually
Netflix.
$20 extra a month.
I'll take Netflix because I don't use any of the rest of it.
So far there's been a lot of addition of things that I have no interest in. And we are getting to the point where if you're going to raise that price, maybe you need a platinum level that I don't have to subscribe to in order to play my games.
I just want to be able to play my games online and get my Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I can get
demos.
Netflix on other consoles.
This is where gold and silver would make more sense if there was
Yes.
a clear
Yes.
separation, but
Do you
there's
think
not.
do you think the inflation argument is valid?
About $10 from 2002 to 2010? $50 and 60. It feels shaky to me, doesn't it?
A little bit.
I want to put it in on one of those websites and converts to the year and see
We
if
should have
that's
done
true.
that before we started.
Yeah, wouldn't that have been nice? If
Yeah,
still
we
like-
had thought about that. It was a
Preparation.
busy morning.
Who needs it?
But it's like 80-some cents a month. I mean, who doesn't have like 80-some cents?
Yeah,
But you're,
to some degree.
you're justifying it. That's what they want us to do.
I know.
I can
But
justify
I spend
it.
more
Let's go.
than that a week on coffee. I don't know.
Exactly.
To some degree. I mean, I can afford 10 more bucks a year if I have to, but why? I don't use Facebook, any of that stuff except Netflix.
I used it when it was in beta, and the Facebook and Twitter stuff only once just to see if it worked.
Yeah,
And I've never looked at it again.
I think everyone is just like that.
Yeah.
They've used it
When
once.
we-
Well,
and
it's on my
they're like, well,
phone. It's on my laptop. It's on. I mean,
everywhere
even
else.
the Last FM stuff. Like I just, I usually just put my iPod in a thing.
Yeah.
And listen to that, or use Pandora on there or something. I don't know. I mean, I get it. I just don't use any of that stuff. So using it as the argument as to why I should pay more money a month is kind
Well,
of
Video
silly.
Connect is one of their arguments too. It's like I'm going to have to spend a lot more money just to be able to use Connect, and now I'm
Yeah.
going to have to pay more for the Video Connect. At least that's what they're saying. That's one of the
Well,
reasons. for the price increase.
he's including it in that mass amount of
Right.
extra features that you get for. I mean, I used to use the video chat on Xbox quite a bit to talk to my friends back on the East Coast and to and keep in touch. It was kind of fun. We all have Xboxes. We sit in our living rooms. A bunch of people are over, and everybody's like, "Hey, man, it's fun."
At the same time, I don't
I
necessarily.
don't really anymore.
I'm not always in a state when I'm playing the 360 that you need to see what I look like
Yeah.
at that
Oh,
period of
goodness.
point in time.
No pants.
Boxer shorts,
When you
bag
wear
of
pants?
Cheetos over here.
No, who wears pants when they play Xbox?
No.
Not people that play video Uno with their video cameras on. I'll tell you that right now.
Oh wow! I mean, that was the original chat roulette,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Wait until Connect does the
Uno
same
at 1
thing.
a.m.
Oh boy.
So in reverse news,
Oh yeah. So
DSI.
The DSI and the
Yay.
DXL is getting a price drop. So it's going to be the DSI is going from $149.99 from $169.99, and the DSI XL to from $169 to reverse $189.99 to $169.99. Which again, God, why do I buy everything on launch?
So
'Cause
cheap
you
now.
want
That was it. That's all I got.
That's it.
Damn.
That's it.
That's what you want.
Huh. I mean,
Yeah,
it's $20 good. Yay, get one. I like mine.
I still have my DS.
Yeah, same here.
I never went in for the DSI, and
Yeah.
actually at this point I'm like 3DS or bust.
I went in
Yeah,
for the
exactly.
DSi XL, but every time I, go through another DS, I, gift it to, my dad,
someone.
my
Oh, yeah.
mother, my
That's great.
siblings. Yeah.
Very considerate.
But they left
Yeah.
the light at exactly the same price, which I was, I guess, a little surprised by. It seems like the light isn't getting as much love these days. They're all into the DSi and now the 3DS.
Oh yeah,
that's
because
coming
it's
out.
got all the new features.
I know, but
got
why
a
not drop it
camera.
in price a little bit?
Because they've already
Doesn't
got
have-
everybody
Because I think-
hooked on
yeah.
the light.
I guess they do. It's the
They
crack.
don't have to.
It still looks pretty cheap comparison.
But what do we even can we even estimate what the 3DS is going to cost when it comes out?
$1 billion.
I'll be surprised if that's under like $299. That's a pretty serious.
That's a console
piece of tech.
price right there.
That's
I
big.
feel like Nintendo usually is on the lower side of. I think that sounds too high.
Well,
I
if
think
the
it sounds
D-
too high, too, but I
DSi
also think
XL,
it's realistic.
I think for launch.
Okay, fair enough.
I think for launch they'll have it high, but then they'll drop it down maybe in a year.
And you're gonna. I mean, you put it at that price. It's a little high, but I think you put enough kiosks in the WalMarts and Best Buys around the country, and the instant you see that thing, you're just like, "This is amazing." And I
gotta have one.
So
Yeah, exactly.
what does the Wii cost now? $199.
that sounds right.
Wow. Okay.
I think
I
it's
haven't
too
bought a
high.
Wii
I would say
recently.
200 is about the.
I don't think you can get away with tech like that for 200. But it's Nintendo. They've
It could
done
happen.
crazier things. We'll see.
I hope. I hope it's around 200.
Well, yes, because
Yes.
I mean, whatever it is, I'm going to be paying it. So that's kind of the. I hope
Yeah.
it's
How
lower
much
too.
is this going to
Yeah.
hurt me? That's the big question.
Yeah.
$250. I'm going to say
250?
$250.
$250.
This
Are we
is like the
starting a
price is
pool?
right.
Are we
Yeah, we're
gonna
going
bet? I know, yeah.
$1.
Can we play Plinko now?
Yeah, like, can we put money into a pool so whoever wins can actually afford it?
Yeah, exactly. It's a good, it's a
It's
good
a
one.
good idea. And
Yeah, and so I don't have a good segue. Stop, Adam's not here. I lack his segue abilities.
yeah, he could probably tie the 3DS into the Taliban somehow. But
So the Taliban need that 3D technology.
But I'm not
Yeah,
gonna
that
try.
might be a challenge even for him. So EA is leaving the Taliban scenes in Medal of Honor. It was controversial because you can actually play as the Taliban in one of the scenes, and there was a press release that I think Adam would want me to mention because he was very excited about it, where they basically said, somebody has to be the cops and somebody has to be the robbers, which I get. But again, I hate speculating about all these things because within the context of the game, we haven't played that, and I don't know. We don't know what we're getting yet. We remember when we were all up in arms with the airport scene in Modern Warfare 2, and then contextually you can kind of rationalize why that would be in the game. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a shot.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder if they'll include an option like Infinity Ward did to skip that scene. It was like, if you're going to be objectionable to this, we
Yeah,
recommend.
I mean
There's gonna be some-
they haven't said if you can skip it yet or not, have they?
no.
No,
they
no,
haven't,
no, no.
But it wouldn't surprise me. It seemed to be, Infinity Ward predicted that. I imagine EA will predict the same kind of thing.
But then again, you're putting a name, to the organization. You're making it something that's a little more prevalent in the news these
Yeah,
days.
something's actually
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
And the question is, it remains to be seen if the story in Medal of Honor is going to be something that would have been diminished by not using a real life terrorist organization. Basically, that's the
Right.
question: is did you really need the Taliban for this? And
Yeah.
we'll see.
That we'll see on that because I mean, basically.
Or did you just want this news story?
Well, yeah, because Call of Duty 4, you have basically what could be considered the Taliban that you're fighting, and
Yeah.
they never actually give a name
No,
to it.
but they look very,
But they don't
stereotypical in that
put the
group,
name
I
on
would
it,
say.
and
Right.
putting the name on it,
Yeah.
that changes
lot more
things a little
official.
bit.
That's why the
So-
British Defense Secretary and I think now the Canadian minister is up in arms about it,
Yeah,
saying,
they said
"What are we doing?
his
This
quote
is
was,
not a game."
It's hard to believe any citizen of our country would wish to buy such a thoroughly un-British game. I would urge.
What?
What?
Let's get through this without laughing. I would urge retailers to show their support for our armed forces and ban this tasteless product.
That sounds un-British too,
Yeah.
Yes.
doesn't it? I don't stiff upper lip and all that.
Yeah, I've been to Britain and had a lot of tasteless products that
Yeah.
I've eaten, so that's a
I
weak
heard about some
argument.
tasteless products in the airport.
Mostly
And
the food.
I do enjoy that EA's defense is that they're trying to allow players to play the Taliban because it's a creative risk they want their developers to take. It is a risk.
It is definitely
yeah.
a risk.
I don't know how creative it is. But,
Just think, you can do it without putting the name on it.
Yeah.
And then without getting everybody
could
riled
be-
up. But then again, that gets a lot of press.
I mean,
Yeah.
what was wrong with it? What if we could just play as the Balatan? We'd know what you mean.
The Taliban.
Yeah.
Taliban.
Maybe like that X-Files episode where they had the death fetishist, but
Oh,
we
yeah.
knew what he was after.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And still effective.
True. You have to wait till the game comes out and see the context that they give it and how they treat it. But at the same time, it's quite a bit risque right out of the
Yeah,
right out
I
of the gate.
appreciate that EA is willing to let their developers kind of make that
Support
move
them.
and stand behind them, but at the same time, it's you got to pick the battles on.
Well,
this
and
one
then you have to
sometimes.
make sure that everything else in the game is treated with the kind of gravity that
Right.
one would expect if you're going to use real places, real people, real groups.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to be really careful.
And then you got to be really careful about what happens in the future. And then, because to make another X-Files reference, the Lone Gunman did that pilot episode where they tried to fly the plane in the World Trade Center. And then a few years later...
Matt and I could probably come up with an X-Files reference for everything we talk about today.
You're not going to see that one rerun very often in syndication.
But if you own every season like I do,
because
I bought them off of Matt Kyle.
What does This Is
so-
Vegas
Oh,
have to do about
oh, wait, let me do it.
Okay,
Try
wait,
Adam.
do it.
Okay, do it.
The Taliban hate our way of life, and nothing is more the American way of life than Las Vegas.
Booyah.
No?
I think it was not bad. I think it was not bad.
All right, the next
What happens
story
in
is
Vegas stays in Vegas, and it looks like This Is Vegas is never even going to get to Vegas?
Oh, there you go.
It's
I
not
like
getting out
that
of
one.
Vegas.
All right.
That's a good one.
So the next news article, which I swear to God is from 2 years ago, is This Is Vegas Dead? The game that apparently cost over $50 million to develop. It used to be in the hands of Midway, and then in the kind of what would you estate sale of Midway?
Fire
products?
sale.
Fire
It was a
sale.
fire sale.
Fire
Fire sale. Everything must go.
It was picked up by WB, and we actually haven't heard anything about this game since I'm gonna say Gamescom 2 years
Long
ago.
time ago.
It was
Yeah.
a while. It was a while.
The only thing I remember when it first popped up is that I thought the main guy looked a lot like Kevin Pereira.
Yeah, that's true. But it was a very interesting sort of idea that Las Vegas had been changed to this sort of family fun place, or it was no longer the Vegas that
But,
people.
yeah, that's Vegas now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's Ve-
It's starting to change back a little bit.
Oh, thank
A
God.
little bit.
and so like you had to go in and sort of make Vegas the old Vegas. And
Yeah, there were strip clubs.
Yeah.
There was gambling. That you could get
Exactly.
drunk.
Yeah, it's just the idea, I guess, that you step on and crush
Hey,
a baby
Vegas now,
stroller
go
and
to
be
old
like,
Vegas
"This
in
is
this game."
Vegas." Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
as in
And
Sparta.
yeah,
Thing.
yeah.
it's worth noting, an anonymous source said it was moving along to a point where the title was on the schedule for release late last year, but still needed another 8 months to a year to finish with a studio burn rate of $250,000 a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that would have been what, $2 million more to finish the game?
Yeah.
roughly.
Come on. You already put 50 million.
Well, I'm
we're at
sure
that
they're
point.
they're looking at how much they predict it's going to sell and
Yeah.
going.
That's a
not.
big loss to cut. Though.
It is.
Yeah.
But
It is.
Vegas games are big now. I mean, come on, you got Fallout, you got Dead Rising 2 coming out. It's Vegas time. We're going back.
They
It's
missed
a
their
fun
window.
setting.
It's a fun place.
I might not really enjoy going there anymore, but it's a fun setting.
I liked the demo that it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I
Yeah.
played this demo and it was fun. And they put out this
cool.
kind of cool, really slickly produced book about This Is Vegas, which I still have. And I'm like, is this a collectible now?
It might
What's going
be.
to happen to this?
Good for you for holding on
Yeah.
to things.
Yeah, I'm a
gonna actually-
victim of hoarders. I should be on hoarders.
They're going to ask.
Oh, I
ask for
finally
it.
I just purged a lot
Really?
of stuff. Oh yeah, it felt
I've seen
great.
Abby's desk. It's hoard
I
material.
didn't purge it from the desk.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so anyway, I already thought that project was dead, so count me not
Nail in the coffin.
surprised.
Yeah. So we'll go from
Yeah.
premature ending
Do
of
your
project
segue.
to premature ending of project to artificial extension of
All right,
projects.
fair enough.
let's do
We'll
it.
take it. DLC. Red Dead Redemption, Bioshock 2, Crackdown 2, Dragon Age are all getting new DLC along with Mafia 2 and Borderlands, one that I'm particularly excited about.
You just want to kill claptraps.
Oh God, so much. But it's just all the DLC to date. I mean, say what you say about the Mad Moxie's Arena one. Their DLC to date has been utterly fantastic.
Exactly.
Except
So-
all the driving and the General Knox.
Yeah, but
Not
I
a
feel
fan of
like,
that.
didn't we discuss how that might be a limitation of the system to
That
allow
doesn't
the
make me feel any
checkpointing?
better when I'm driving all over again. Back to
That's true.
I mean, there had to be a way. If
Yeah.
that is a limitation of the engine, I hope they fix it.
I
for
just
the
kind
second
of
one.
like lollygag back behind and wait for the other people to hit the checkpoints.
And then
I know.
And then
Flash
Yeah, I
up.
know. Go on.
like in Battlefield where I would just wait for everybody to drive
yeah, I
by
know.
and hitchhike.
Yeah, I know.
It's getting really awkward.
Go on.
Remember in Grand
Shut it.
Theft Auto when I took taxi cabs everywhere?
Oh,
This is really awkward, guys.
I just don't,
you don't
Just rather
want
have
to.
some-
You don't
Gameplay
want to
secrets
play with
revealed.
her. Trust me.
I'm efficient.
You are efficient at the expense of everyone else's efficiency. Yes, very good.
It would take you the same amount of time to get to that checkpoint. I'm just going to wait.
It's called freeloading.
Yeah,
You could drive once in a while. That's all I'm saying.
I do. And then everybody yells at me.
Mommy, Daddy,
Well,
stop
yes, 'cause-
fighting.
yeah.
She's come to her own solution. That sounds
All right.
adequate.
Sometimes
Because I
forget-
needlessly attack everything and then we get in
And
trouble.
also, sometimes I
Fine.
forget how bad she is at driving in games,
I'm pretty bad.
which is
yeah.
Okay, you got a point. Go
It's
on.
like bumper cars. I'm a woman. What do you
with
want?
more blood.
Red Dead Redemption is getting their liars and cheats with multiplayer gambling, horse racing, hideouts, hunting grounds, new
what
weapon.
racing? Horse
Racing.
Okay.
Horse.
What did you, gentlemen?
Just saying,
Horse.
enunciate. That's
Punch your face.
That might be coming in the future.
Bioshock gets Minerva's Den, focus on multiplayer, new weapons, plasmid. That one's out now. You can go
Yes.
play it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet. I'm still backed up in arcade releases badly. I finally got around to Monday Night Combat. I finally got around to getting further into Limbo, Lara Croft. I've
I'm
actually
working on
really enjoyed
Shank
all
now.
of it.
There's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
much,
that's in my
tons of
queue.
DLC stuff. Scott Pilgrim.
Summer. I started Scott Pilgrim.
Busy time right now.
I know.
Yeah.
Crackdown 2 is getting a free Toy Box DLC that adds the keys to the city mode. You remember the first one had that as well. You get thruster boots, vehicle tag, multiplayer mode. The multiplayer wasn't the big sell on that for me. So I don't know.
Was it the thruster boots? Is that the thing you get for having level 6?
Yes.
And everything? Yeah. Good, because it needed something for doing that, because
Yeah.
that was a little tedious.
Dragon Age has its Witch Hunt DLC. It takes place a year after the end of Origins, where players track down Morrigan. See, I said Morrigan.
Morrigan.
So people don't
Very
think I'm
good.
talking about Morrigan.
Morgan.
You can import your Origins or Awakenings characters. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's rocket.
Mafia 2, did you have the details on that?
Yeah,
I missed this
Mafia
one. 'cause I
2.
was-
I love this. Okay, it's called Jimmy's Vendetta is the DLC that you'll be getting, and it adds 30 new quests, leaderboard rankings, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But as players progress, a slew of new quests are unlocked, including assassination and timed vehicle pursuits, ending in dramatic shootouts and explosive car chases. If you've played Mafia 2, the car sequences are, I don't know, one of the weakest points of the game for me.
Well, especially when there's a timer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have your vehicle limiter. Now
Your
it says you have
Vehicle
supercharged.
limiter. That's how I get around.
Like, I wasn't sure how I
don't
could
wanna
have
get up
gotten
to
to those
40
gas stamp places any faster.
I don't want to
gas
get past
Oh,
40
that-
miles an
no.
hour. That's too fast for
That
me.
level is killing me right now because I finished it and then I got to the end and died, and it's like starts you all the way back. But now you'll have supercharged velocity and lofty jumps in your
Supercharged
vehicle.
velocity.
Lofty
That's like
jumps.
55, 60.
We're pushing 60
Lofty
miles
jumps.
an hour.
Bring yourself in, kid.
I'm still at the point, because I'm trying to get through this week while I have a million other things to do, but I'm still at the point where, like, I'm listening to old-timey music and driving my old-timey car.
That's fun.
And
Yeah,
I'm
that's
actually
great.
really enjoying that.
Yeah,
I'm
somewhere
sure-
around
but
Trip to Joe's number 28. That
Yeah,
gets a little,
well-
little.
I'm not there yet.
Oh, that
no
Joe's.
spoilers, Matt.
But I will.
Spoiler, you go back to Joe.
You go back to Joe's place. Joe's place is where the mission is. Now, I've got any kind of car chase in which you listen to That'll Be the Day. I'm in favor of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was actually, I really
Not
enjoyed
enough Buddy
that.
Holly in video games.
This is true.
True.
I was impressed when it's like snowing outside and Dean Martin's Christmas song comes on and you're
Yeah.
like, wow, I feel like I'm there almost.
Always nice.
Almost every time the radio plays during a mission, I've found that I think they pick the song.
This is next week's feedback. We've
Yeah,
gone
we
into
gotta
the future.
stop
Oh,
talking about
fine.
Mafia.
This is for PAX.
Well, the
All you
PAX
lucky people going to
feedback.
PAX get to hear us talk about
Talking about
Mafia.
Mafia.
It's a sneak preview.
All right, well, then it's time to move on to the game of the week.
Well, just before we do, I was just going to mention the Xbox controller.
Oh,
Oh,
right,
yeah,
right,
yeah.
right, right.
Awesome.
Late edition.
You want me to mention it? Or you
Go
want to
ahead.
mention it? The Xbox. What's been the biggest complaint about the Xbox controller? What do people hate?
D-pad.
The D-pad.
D-pad sucks.
They like to debag on the D-pad. It's a problem for fighting games, especially. Microsoft has supposedly known about this for years. They put out that one limited edition controller in, I think, South America that had a slightly adjusted D-pad. It was bright red or something.
Yeah.
You couldn't get it here. I remember contacting them before, and they were like, "We don't have any comment about anything that's unreleased." So finally, now today, Major Nelson announced they are coming out with a new redesigned Xbox 360 controller. It's available November 2nd, I believe. It's $64.99 with a play and charge kit. It replaced the existing controller. The cool thing is the D-pad, you can twist the ring around it and it raises up like a quarter inch or an eighth of an inch or something. It changes from a plus into a disc is what Major
That's
Nelson
cool.
described it as. So, and it's all gray and
Yeah, it doesn't have the colors on the buttons anymore.
Buttons
They're
are no
all
longer
black,
colored.
black and white and gray.
yeah.
That's how you know it's grown up.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's an
It also
adult
has
now.
like
It's
a
distinguished.
black border around the whole thing.
Yeah.
I was going to
I'm
say
kind of
my
into
biggest complaint was when I throw the controller, it breaks. But
She needs a Nerf controller.
no, I had a friend of mine. My favorite like controller throwing story is a friend of mine got the Nerf controllers for PS3, and he was so angry at a game because he did it because he'd broken so many controllers throwing them, and he winged the Nerf controller, and it bounced off the wall and then clocked him in the head, which like still makes me laugh.
Sweet justice.
Nice.
I know, right? No, I can't remember the last time I've broken a controller.
I've never thrown a controller for anything.
No, I actually like
Ever.
the Xbox controller because I don't
get
throw.
that behavior.
I twist, and I
That
can't
I
snap
did.
that thing in half. So.
I think, but I think I almost managed to twist snap the original.
The Duke?
No, the original PS3 controller.
There you
yeah,
go.
Okay.
that was that one.
Six
had
axis
some-
is almost.
Because it was so
And it's so
light.
lightweight. Yeah, exactly.
It was like,
it's like a wafer.
I don't know. I have too many things to break in the house. I don't actually throw them, but that twist is great.
If Matt had torn a Duke in half, I would have been.
No one
Pretty
can do that.
impressed.
I don't even. I
Matt
don't know.
Kyle can do that.
Now we've met with the challenges out
Maybe
there.
like snap it like that. I
Yeah.
don't know. But I'm into the new D-pad because the D-pad does suck on the 360 controller, no question. And they needed to do something now that fighting games are becoming prevalent. I think it'd be nice to have your default controller playable on those games. And if it works great. I just hope that twist locks it in place somehow.
That's what I'm wondering about.
Because if you're rolling that thing around, like I don't want it to come loose while I'm fireballing.
Yeah.
That's
Weird.
that's a negative. But yeah, and it's a little pricey, isn't it?
$64.99. It's kind of pricey. Yeah.
Comes with a playing charge kit, but that's a lot for a controller.
Yeah, it is.
But all right. Game of the week.
Called News Edition Money Sink.
Yes. Hope you got a lot of money for the things that aren't games. But game of the week. Metroid Other M. Speaking of firestorms, we weren't as much a fan of this game as some other places were.
No.
And Abby did the review for us.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us what you thought of that?
Why is everyone laughing? Oh man, I love Metroid. I do, and this one didn't feel like a Metro. I mean, it does. It feels like Fusion. I think if I had to make a comparison to any of the other games,
A very watered down.
yes, but a very watered down Fusion. You just wanted me to say water, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks. But
She's not
yes,
from
I had
around here.
problems. I had problems with the represent. I mean, should we go through point by point because we all have different.
Let's start and get the story
Okay.
out of the way, and then because I'd like to talk more about the gameplay because I feel
Yeah.
like that's been kind of ignored to some
Yeah.
degree over the furor over the story and Samus's character.
Right. So basically, this is the first time that she's really had a voice. It's a very mousy sort of voice, not necessarily what I expected for the character, but her portrayal is as sort of weak and subservient to her former captain. And I people have invoked the word feminism and sexism way more than I think I ever have in my entire life. But it's definitely a very strange choice, considering that at this point it's most important, I think, to point out the timeline because this is the second to last game in the
very
Metroid.
late in her career.
It's very, very late. And the things that I saw as being problems within that storyline is she seems like that sort of lack of confidence and lack of, I've been a bounty hunter for 10 to 15 years at this point. And, people have sort of glossed over the fact that I pointed out there's two very distinct storylines in Other M. One, which I really enjoy, actually, but it doesn't really come up until later in the game. And I liked it. It's kind of twisty and turny and fun and it's more or less a decent plot for a game. And then the first one, which is, the story of her meeting her old squad mates on this, on the bottle ship and then interacting with them again and going out to, kind of explore and really start the actual gameplay, is really, really an odd choice at this time in the narrative. I think had that been a prequel, even if that, sorry, they would have had to change the VO and the writing in the first place because it's tough to get through. Really, really tough.
There are those saying that the Japanese voices are a lot more acceptable, but I haven't heard the Japanese dub.
No, well, I mean, I'm reviewing the game that
Right.
came into my hands, and the story would have actually worked if it was a prequel to the Metroid that we know now. Like, had that been a game that came out, at the very, very, it can come out now, but if it had been talking about events that happened, as soon as she left the Galactic Federation and was kind of embarking on her, in her world on her own as a bounty hunter for the first time, actually the story's really viable. And I said most people ignored that, but
Well, because
fine.
as you've said, it's not like the story arc, the character arc for Samus in this is not inherently a problem for a character or for a female character specifically. The problem is it's being applied to Samus at 15 years into her bounty hunting career after she's done a lot of things. And it almost feels like, some of it makes me wonder, they refer a lot to Super Metroid and Metroid in this game. Not the Prime, not the Primes.
No.
It's almost like they didn't happen.
Yeah.
Which is so unfortunate because those were so good. I enjoyed the Prime
I did
games
too.
a lot.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know. It's oh boy. I don't know where to start. I'm sorry. Well, I've been looking at for maybe 4 or 5 days now the comments on the internet. Yes, I read NeoGAF. Yes, I mean more like a troll or a lurker here, but not troll because I don't say anything. I just lurk. And a bunch of other message boards and the threads that have gone on other sites for far too long, and the amount of misogynist commentary that's been spouted, and the discourse that people have chosen to take on this. Referring, using terms that, I mean, seriously, if you're going to post something as horrible as some of the things that I've seen, show your mother first. Or if you have a girlfriend, run it by her because, wow, like there's some things that have been said that are frankly unbelievable.
It's disgusting. It really is.
It is.
Completely.
And as you know, on this show, I think we try to keep it kind of, we try to talk about games on a slightly more, I don't want to say intellectual because we're kind of ridiculous about things, but civil. And it maybe a level or two below what you usually get, and it just that kind of conversation is never going to happen on a regular basis in gaming if this is the reaction to someone who didn't like a game you think you're going to like because no one's played it yet.
Yeah,
Yeah, and well,
at that point.
well, yeah, and I mean now the game is out in the wild, but also like I want people to play this game.
Yeah.
As someone who's really enjoyed Metroid games since the first Metroid games, I want people to play this. I love hearing other people's opinions about it. I've disagreed with a lot of the reviews. I know a lot of people doing those reviews, and I still like and respect a lot of people doing those reviews. I kind of said tongue in cheek in our talk about it, I'm like, I don't even know if I want to be friends with you. Okay, guys, sarcasm for, just a second here.
Yeah, I think it's like we love disagreement and discourse that's intelligent, but not when it devolves into name calling.
No, but I want to hear
if you
all
like
of
this
that.
game, tell me why you like this game.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's on the female character rant. There was this backlash against. Well, what do you want to be? Or like a tough, like takes no from anyone. I have no emotions and I'm stoic female. No, It was almost a year ago that we sat, a little less, that we sat in this room and talked about how the portrayals of Elena and Chloe in Uncharted 2 were some of the best representations of female characters. And here they are. They both have a backstory that, with the male protagonist in question. They're both strong, but they both have emotions. They both have weaknesses. They're very different characters.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just amazing and amazingly written. And, I guess the other thing that I took into account, at least when I was reviewing Metroid, was that, first of all, I have loved almost every single non-mini game, Wii release that's come out. Like the first party, when we're talking first party Nintendo stuff, they've had a great run. I expect a lot of quality out of them, especially when it comes to their core franchises. So I don't know.
I think it's worth noting that along the lines of the question of you want to be a tough ass. The story could work that way if you flip it, and instead of being like this insecure, like unsure, submissive character at the beginning of Metroid Other M, she was hard as nails and had been turned cold as ice by these experiences with her former commanding officer, and through the course of the game learned that she didn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
As opposed to
great.
gaining confidence, which is what happens.
I don't
in the
think
game.
it's a mature.
That would have been a more logical choice for that character
Yes.
Right.
for me, given her lack. She doesn't have a personality so much in the previous games, but she seemed to be cold, silent, and ready to shoot you in the face. Like the only act of really mercy she's ever shown is to not kill the baby Metroid at the end of Metroid 2.
Right.
Sure.
So that I say that would have been a valid way to take her as well.
Yeah, and I mean, and the reason that I think that the story holds so much weight is because Nintendo's gone out there and said, that the story is important to us. This is something that we really want to do within this game. And it also impacts the gameplay because that's the reason that she can't use any of her powers. Oh, Rob, did you want to say something?
That when you were talking about throwing controllers earlier, that's the last time I threw a controller when I was playing this game, and you are not spoilers or anything. You are going through a level where it is very hot.
This was in the review,
Metroid
so
game?
you can.
In the Metroid game, maybe even lava,
What?
and basically you are taking massive amounts of damage going through it. And somewhere like maybe 3/4 of the way you're going
Because
through,
the environment
because
sucks.
the
The
environment
heat is making you
exactly.
just like.
And then he's like, "Oh, now you can use that Vera suit you happen to have."
Yeah.
What? What again?
Yeah.
You're telling me I can finally use the suit that I have all along to protect myself
Yeah.
from the environment
And frankly,
right now.
they have the opportunity in the beginning of the game to just say, well, we couldn't fix everything,
Yeah,
so you're
exactly.
going to have to wait.
I
I
mean,
mean,
there's
it's
other-
all contrived
Yeah.
how it all
Yeah.
happens, but you could have gone to something just at least more believable.
Yeah,
Exactly.
there are ways, you can't get too far into it because it relates to things that happen at the end of the game that are revealed.
Right.
But there was a way to make this so she was gathering her components on the ship instead of activating them. But I still say, and this is getting into the gameplay, because so much of the gameplay is in service to what the story dictates.
Right.
That I feel like they made that decision in the story so they wouldn't have to add more exploration to the game to find those pieces. Like
because
it
they
seemed
sure
a lot of it
hated
felt,
exploration in this game.
yeah, it's very linear, strikingly linear. for a Metroid
And the thing
game.
is, I actually really liked the game after I got to the very end, and then I could run around and do everything.
But because you could go back, you could actually explore things, you could actually pick
and I
up
felt
all
like
those.
I was playing Metroid.
Exactly. But before then, it was, I want to go back.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're not
You
going
can't go
back.
back.
You can't
No.
go back.
a
No.
lot of
And I
shutting you
love
out
that.
from previous
yeah,
areas.
and it's like, how do you even do that? How do you even convince yourself into a game that you cannot go back through a door that you just went through, where it's like, no.
Well, he's locking things off from the control room, so it makes sense story-wise. But the problem is, for me, one of the great joys of Metroid is getting those kind of mid to high level thing. You get the space jump, you get the super missile, and you're like, now I can go back and I can
Go
open
all
all
the way
those
back.
damn
Yeah.
doors I've been looking at
Yeah.
for the last
Yeah,
all about
that's my
that.
favorite thing because I've already categorized
and you
away where they
can't in
are.
this game,
and-
really. There's a lot of
No.
places
There's
you
nothing.
No.
see once and you never get to go back to.
Shadow Complex did that really well, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and which was based sort of Metroid-y.
Oh,
if you
very
think about
Metroid.
it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And
it
now
was-
they can't even do it themselves with their own game.
But going
Sad.
through Shadow Complex does it so well because you don't quite see the doors that Metroid puts in front of you so readily, where it's like you can't go here, you can't go here, you can't go here. Well, in Shadow Complex, it's you can't go here because you're gonna die. You can't go here because you can't hold your breath long enough.
Or
You
even
can't-
in previous Metroids, is you can't go here because you can't jump that high. yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in this
Exactly.
one, it's like you can't go here because
I
we
said
locked the
so.
door.
Let's talk.
sorry.
What about the controls in this game? I mean,
Well, why don't you, I think you definitely like this game better than the other three of us.
I think that means I enjoyed a modicum of it at this point
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
everyone dislikes
pretty
it.
much.
But I did. I mean, story aside, yes, the story is terrible, and Samus's deadpan delivery is not emotional at all. I never felt tied to this character. But gameplay wise, I actually was enjoying myself after a few minutes running around the ship. Morphing. And it's classic Metroid stuff with a little 3D thrown in there. The perspective change though because you're playing this with the Wiimote held sideways.
Right.
And then, like you had said, if it had a classic controller support, that would have been great.
Because
But
there's nothing inherently wrong with the view switch idea.
no, the view switch is just awkward when you're
Right.
you're playing with your controller held like this, and suddenly you have to switch to this so you can aim and shoot your missiles and lock on and everything. And you can't move in that state. You can revolve, but you can't
Yeah.
move
Yeah.
yourself. You can't move your
But
character.
you've always got that moment of where you and the Wii have to agree what pointing to the screen means.
yeah, instead of you're like,
And- yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a tremendous tease because once you are able to go into that first person mode, your brain, I think, especially after playing the Prime series, kind of
Yeah.
goes, well, oh, there might be things to scan for. There might be there might be more
No.
information hidden here,
No.
and there's none of that
No.
except in points where they actually force you to stand there until you figured out what you're looking for.
That is
and
the worst.
Yeah.
those were
it's bad.
I wasn't really.
and
a
my
fan
brain
of
said the
those.
same thing. I was like, Prime. As soon as I went into
Yay,
first
yeah.
person, but then no, you
No.
can't move.
But the
or
fact that they completely stop down the game and it's like, find what's wrong in this
And the
picture.
other thing, I mean, that's how all the boss battles work. Every boss battle, and I've generally absolutely loved Metroid boss battles because I think
yeah.
that they give you, that awesome 3-tiered boss battle into great. I mean, most of these are hit them with charge shots, and then you get enough time to sit there and shoot them with the missile, and it's over.
And call me when you're done. It's like it's.
There
Again,
are some
I
that
would-
there are some that are better than that, but
Right.
not.
I just hate that when you make the mechanic of the view switching, turning the Wiimote, you have basically introduced an element to the game that will continually at all times remind me I'm playing a game.
Yes.
And every time I have to think about my hand's position on the controller, what button does what now. As a
That
matter of fact,
immersion is lost.
there's a
Right.
point at which you have to turn into a ball and drop a bomb in a place, and because it happens in the middle of all this other stuff with a first-person view, I kept hitting the A button to drop the bomb, but the bomb is the one button, so I
Right.
died a couple times because
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
because
Yeah.
the control switches, and it just doesn't make any sense in my head anymore. And you've completely broken the immersion
Yeah.
for me on that. And I don't think that needed to happen if you allow a classic controller control scheme. But mainly, I would play a Metroid game that was this third person third person version they've got here. If you could shoot the missiles in third person and just run around and do Metroid stuff, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean,
they've been
I like
really
being able
successful doing that to their other franchises.
Yes. And after three Prime games, I thought it was really nice to be able to see her again.
Yeah.
Like to see her armor and see her running around and what's going on. And that B trigger on the bottom of the Wiimote not being used, that could have been the missile. Could have been the missile activation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
what about speaking of immersion, this is tiny, but the speaker on the Wiimote when you charge up your main weapon, your cannon and everything, just the little sounds. I still love that stuff.
I really enjoy all that stuff too. Like it's always kind of I just made a noise.
Yeah.
But as far as the sound and music and the rest of the game, like there's a point where I'm playing, like, did they lose the rights to the Metroid theme?
Yeah,
because the
hear
music is just is you barely hear it. I mean, you get like at the end, you get that music,
And there's a lot
and you
during
get,
cutscenes.
Yeah.
but.
The orchestration is very high quality.
Yes.
It's just I didn't find the music memorable at all.
No,
I couldn't
and
hum you
and
anymore.
I kind of associate that game with music, although it's been utilized more and less in various iterations of the game. I liked when they used it more. I wish I could have heard more of it in this.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's I mean I gotta wonder what the reception's going to be on this game overall from the fan base.
I don't know. I feel like if you're not a Metroid fan, you could probably get more enjoyment out of this game than if you are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
if
then
you don't
I
have
think,
the expectation.
and then I think you have
exactly.
the Metroid and Nintendo fans that will always love everything that they do. I wonder in part if because I saw all these same criticisms in a lot of the reviews, and then they were sort of glossed over. And I was never quite able to rationalize, why these things weren't as big of a deal to other people. I don't know.
I gotta wonder if sometimes, in some cases, maybe it's just like you're so happy to finally have another Metroid game again. Because technically, if you weren't into the Prime games, this is the first console Metroid game since
course.
Super.
But it's also there's also a little bit of fear as well, because this is like a big series. So you're playing like the next Metroid game, and you're thinking to yourself, am I missing something? Is there something that's just not connecting? Like,
well, to me, it definitely felt like Metroid Light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was not. I did not get the same experience I was looking for.
I mean, it didn't. I mean, it hardly felt like even a Metroid game. It was hardly like they sort of missed the idea of like what makes Metroid.
Up to and include. I mean, I think every element of the game I have a problem with in some regard.
Oh yeah.
Even like the concentration thing where you hold the Wiimote up and you hit the A button, and she thinks really hard and gets her missiles and her health back.
Right, which I was like, at a certain point, it was like, why even attack the enemies? Why don't you just run through
We
the...
did.
I did that a lot too, but it's
a lot of rooms.
Like, why?
Because
I mean,
sometimes
to
when
me,
you
that's
kill
just,
all of them, you get the dot on the map that shows you where the
Yeah,
item
but
is.
But that's
usually
again
find that.
the lazy. That's lazy. That's
Lazy
like we
design.
didn't want. I mean, the other Metroids always had kind of that balance of like, here's the enemies you kill, you get your health, you get your missiles.
Yeah.
Go in to fight the boss. You better make it last.
You
Like,
better make it
count.
to the point where he spits out a bunch
Or
of that.
spits,
Yeah.
then like
So
you
you
get
can
the
get your
halfway
stuff
point, you
back.
get that stuff. But it's like, to me, it's like we didn't want to bother.
Yeah.
We didn't want to bother balancing the game for that. We're just going to let you sit there and fire off missiles willy nilly.
Yeah.
And if you screw up too much, just think about it.
I mean,
Kevin, tell us something else positive.
Nostalgia. It spoke to me nostalgia-wise. I mean, I loved Prime. This definitely feels like a step backwards from Prime. I think just because I loved those games so much. I really did. That was my GameCube must-have time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But then it's weird because it exists in that space before Prime and after Super Metroid, and I felt like, okay, this could kind of be wedged in there if the story was written to accommodate that.
Right.
It's so weird because it
But
starts
it's
out
not.
you're
But
in
then
that.
it's before Fusion, so it's after Prime. And,
Well, true.
you know,
That's true. You'd have to really
yeah.
eviscerate it to get it to fit in there.
Yeah.
But I felt like the 2D and 3D aspects, the platforming was great. Some of the exploration was fun. I mean, you are finding things like energy tanks and things. I don't know why they couldn't have been components of your
But there
armor.
wasn't a lot of energy tanks. Like I never felt.
No,
to
you weren't
myself-
doing it a lot, no.
You weren't doing it a lot, and a lot of the stuff that you actually like energy tanks or things like that, you just sort of ran into. And beyond that, you really just had missiles. And with the whole regenerating your own missiles, like I came to a point where I was like, well, I'm not going to lose any missiles because
Yeah.
I fire off like maybe 10, 12. And I'm done.
So you don't have to go exploring.
I don't have
Yeah,
to
I
go
wasn't really
explore
ever
for it.
in the point where I really needed more.
Yeah, and I always find
Because you can always recharge them anyway, so it wasn't like, well, it's true.
it's true.
This is somewhat positive. I know we're talking about this early. Normally, we kind of wait until players
Sure,
have had
yeah.
time to play it. There's a commenter who Keaton Man who has owned the game for about an hour as of a couple of hours ago. I guess he ran out this morning and bought it. He actually liked it. He can see where Abby is coming from, and the point she makes in her review and on the talk about that you guys did. But he goes on to say that he's going to give it a high recommendation for people to at least rent the game.
I want people
Yeah.
to rent the game as well.
They
Everyone,
should
I think,
play
should
it.
play
Should try it out,
make
yeah.
their up their own mind about it because it's such a different and divisive
Divisive.
game. Turns out I've been pronouncing that wrong for
What have
25,
you
25 years.
saying?
Divisive.
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 I kind of like that.
Abby has educated me. And the other comment I wanted to get to was from Chantler, and this is a more a kind of general commentary, but he says, personally, I like a more personal review, mainly because they tend to be more entertaining to read. These aren't lawnmowers, they're entertainment products, and a person's enjoyment will vary from that person to another person. You can't just get a checklist of functions and modes to determine whether or not a video game is good or not. It comes down to how the person playing felt about the game. My real question is, where do you as reviewers draw the line between objective criticism and your individual interests, morality, and beliefs? And that's a big question.
Very
Ethics
big.
over morality or something.
I don't know how many ethics are involved in reviewing video games.
Or how much
exactly.
morality is.
But, some of the people who didn't like that scene in Modern Warfare 2 would,
Well,
would
yeah.
have
Well,
something to
but
say
that's
to
also
that.
a very, I mean, that's a different...
Very
doesn't really
specific
happen often.
situation.
Yeah.
But it's a great point because if someone else had reviewed this game that wasn't as tied to it as Abby is, throughout the historical history of Metroid, you would have gotten a completely different review.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's great that we have someone that's so passionate about the character that they're willing to just, you laid it all out there. And this was, in my opinion, I thought this was a great review. You kind of read other reviews and you're like, well, they gloss over the controls and they talk about, it's a Metroid game. And I'm like, yeah, but what do you really think about it? And Abby put her heart and soul into what the review was.
But I also wanted it to, I wanted there to be the logic of look, it doesn't fit the storyline. And had you written some of her lines differently, and had you gotten a different VO for the, for the character,
It would have made a difference.
Yeah, it would have made a huge difference. And it's just in the Metroid timeline, I don't know how much it makes sense. He's not her commanding officer. He hasn't been for 10 to 15 years. And I don't know. This just really bothers me.
Well, I like that it led to almost equal amounts of people saying that you hadn't played enough Metroid games and that you'd played too many.
Yeah.
You were
Which
both
one is
too
it?
close and too far away from the
Oh,
situation.
that's amazing. Oh, I mean, this title has a huge fan base.
Of course.
And everybody has their own different interpretation of what this game should be and what it shouldn't be. And, this is honestly how I feel. I think that this is the worst game in the Metroid series.
I would agree with that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Even with Hunters and Pinball.
Yes. I
factored
I
in.
like pinball.
I like pinball.
Pinball's
But
fun.
a lot of people don't like pinball.
Right. No, I get it. But I think that this is
Some
the
people
weakest,
don't like chocolate. I don't know what's with them.
I think this is the weakest Metroid game, and I don't think it's fair to praise it that highly within its own series.
And I think it's sad that I'm worried that is this the template for Metroid from here on out?
Is the next one going to be just like this?
Yeah.
I hope it was a try. Let's see if this works, and if it doesn't work, back to the drawing board. But there were some things that I didn't mind. I should say I want to say liked, but I really did. Some of the close
much.
quarters, stuff was really cool.
But it was so
it was sometimes
odd.
arbitrarily triggered. I thought
Yeah.
the auto aim was really weird. Sometimes there was one thing on screen and it wasn't shooting it, and I turned and it wasn't, and I was at my wit's end, why just shoot the one thing? But
Well, I think, and in terms of some of the reinvention that happened there, I think that will make a nice segue to our question of the week from Uber Dork Zor. He says, he's talking about, is it acceptable to reimagine the personality of a protagonist in an established video game series a la Samus? Ms. Aaron.
I
as he calls her.
know why you want to answer this question. I know exactly why you want to answer this question.
And he says, I distinctly remember a recent Sessler soapbox entitled Change is Good, but perhaps this isn't universally true. In an age when it seems gamers are increasingly looking for engaging story, the protagonist whose performance ventures beyond a simple one-note persona, are we actually looking for a gaming experience that focuses on tradition and gameplay as opposed to creative risks within the story? And I would argue that change is good, but you got to make sure that change is good.
Yes.
Just because change is a positive thing when utilized correctly does not mean that changing for the sake
Is
of changing.
universally
exactly.
good.
Yeah, we don't need change
And
for change.
well, I know when you bring up the is it in the creator's mind how he portrays his character?
A lot of people have said Sakamoto always apparently had this idea for Samus, and so that's who Samus is. Well, if you hold to that, you better not be complaining about the Star Wars prequels, because that's how George Lucas pictured Anakin, and that's how Darth Vader is now.
Sorry.
Whiny.
But no, and change can be great, and I've really enjoyed watching Nintendo create these like 2D, 3D hybrid games, and moving their own kind of game genre, because Metroid is like the most awesome progression, like it's the most awesome gameplay kind of ever. It's established gameplay for other games that we love, like Arkham Asylum and Shadow Complex, but like just their progression and the weapons that they give you and everything is spot on. Like it's I don't know, their formula is fantastic, and you can change it without making it bad or not as good.
Or not so good with
or
the
not
much.
so good.
Have
so
we
much.
seen other games that changed the protagonist so much that that in a good way that it's become completely different?
I hear Master Chief skips through fields picking daisies. And
He's giving up his gun.
Really good.
And then the Flood shows up and he cries.
Well, I think
they become friends.
I mean, to go to another Nintendo franchise, when Wind Waker came out, it was a very different sort of Link than everyone thought
That's
it would
true.
be. And so, like when they were the little small snippet of Link that we actually saw, like before Wind Waker, was like this very darker Link that we got, later on. But with Wind Waker, we got this sort of cartoony, this sort of like this very young Link that not everyone was really willing to accept so much. But then it's the same gameplay. It's sort of the same sort of ideas, the same sort of like you pick up this item to defeat this boss, and you open up this world because you have this new experience now. And so a lot of people love the Wind Waker, and even say that Wind Waker is probably even the best of the Zelda
Change
series.
is good, just don't change everything all at
Yes.
once.
Yes, exactly.
But
Right,
also,
well-
we've seen a change in how female characters are portrayed too,
True.
and it's getting better to some extent. I got a lot of asking me if I like Bayonetta. I love Bayonetta. She's
Bayonetta's
like a
awesome.
drag queen fan. She's fantastic.
But also, there's not like a previous Bayonetta where you're like, oh my
No,
god,
no,
they ripped
no.
out her story.
True. No.
Yeah, if you
she
make
doesn't have the
Princess
history.
Peach into Bayonetta, then we have a problem.
Yeah, that would be really
Do we?
weird.
I don't know. I
There's
don't
room-
know.
Maybe
I
do
do
it.
with
There is
that,
room
but-
for all
Princess
portrayals of
Peach
female
needs to kick
characters.
some
but-
ass.
Peach
Princess
Bayonetta,
Peach has
that'd
been
be
getting kidnapped far too long.
And with that, we are unfortunately about out of time. But
Come-
we should
come
note
see us
that-
at PAX.
Come see it at PAX at the feedback panel. What time?
Saturday,
Is that?
5 p.m.
at
5 p.m. on Saturday.
Saturday,
to
5
6
p.m. at PAX. We will be doing.
And we're doing like a tweet up thing at Shorty's on Friday. from
Shorty's
like 7 to
Clown Bar
9.
on
Yes.
Friday night.
It's not really
Yeah.
a clown bar. The reason, because I don't know why I always get asked to pick bars, but they have the most awesome collection. Shut up. They have the most awesome collection of pinball machines like ever. It is
Nice.
so
There you
awesome.
go.
They have like all the. They have. Oh my god! It's you guys will see it and you'll be like, all right. That's why I choose these things.
Let's bring pinball back.
And when I sit in the back room and play Medieval Madness for the entire evening and speak to no one, I'm
know
just
why.
kidding. Yeah.
Yes.
You're
All
not gonna
right.
talk.
Well,
Adam's family.
we will
Adam's
see hopefully as
Adam's
many of you as we can at PAX, and that's another feedback wrapped up.
Bye.
Hello there. I'm Adam Sessler, host of XPlay, editor-in-chief at G4TV.com. I talk a lot about video games, and sometimes a camera is in front of me when I'm doing that. We call that Sessler's Soapbox. It takes about 2 minutes of your time, but trust me, you will hear invective and joy, and probably a lot of rude things like you've never heard before in the context of video games. I do it for you, so you should check it out. It's up every Tuesday on G4TV.com.